Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and disassemble all of this and see how I can get the new TV fit in there. One thing that I do have to add is I picked one of these up on Amazon. New old stock, there's not many left. If I remember the link, I'll leave it below. It's supposed to be a pretty decent component video switch. It also does S-Video and standard AV. Yay! Hopefully it'll all work out. Still don't have all the cables in that I need, but that's fine. That won't be that much of a hassle to hook them all up. Anyway, let's see what I can do with this. There we go, just the bare rack. So I still have to remove the top two shelves so that I can add the two additional shelves to kind of split these in half so that I have a little bit more room for extra consoles and stuff like that. I still don't know. But before I do that, let me make sure the television fits up here first, because if not, I'm going to have to run to the hardware store and get like a piece of wood or something to level that out. And it does seem to fit just fine. There's not a whole lot of room on either side, even if I center it. So I'm not sure where I will end up putting this switch here, but we'll see. Oh, it's powered too, so that should help a little bit. All right, got them removed. It's a lot harder than you would think. They are really on there with these little plastic clips, whatever, clamps, whatever they're called. Speaking of which, I gotta find the extra set that I've got and then determine exactly how high I want to have everything. All right, I think I've settled on a final layout for now. The disc-based consoles will be at the bottom, with the exception of the Sega CD will be in the middle there. There's enough clearance there for the cartridge and the disc tray. And there's also barely enough room, but there's enough room for SNES games and Famicom games. Now, the issue is going to be when I want to play NES games using the retro adapter. That's going to make it too tall, so I'll have to figure something out for that, but this is probably the best layout that I can come up with. Unless, might be a little sacrilegious, but if I put the Famicom down one shelf, I should have enough room, and I could probably drop the shelf just above the Xbox one more notch or so. Maybe even the same thing with the PS2, we'll see. But I think I'll be alright for now. I'm going to go ahead and test fit the CRT on top and see if it all holds. And yeah, I think it'll work. Now, you're going to probably ask, well, where does the Master System go? Where does the Atari 2600 go? Well, I just don't have room for those on this shelf here, unfortunately. If this was wider or even taller, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Height-wise, I could still fit it in the corner back there by the Link's Awakening poster. Width-wise, I would not be able to. So unfortunately, if I want to play those systems, I'm just going to have to have them on the floor or shuffle some things around. I mean, with regards to the Master System, I could swap it out for the Genesis Sega CD combo since the AV cable is the same and the power cable for the Sega CD is the same that the Master System uses. Should be okay there. Atari 2600 though, on the other hand, that's probably just not going to fit. I'll have to have it on the floor or something when I drag it out and play it. The other question though that I have to figure out is where to put the AV selector. I don't even know how big it is. I got to take it out of the box and maybe it goes on top. We'll see. So technically I could put it on top. It'll just lay flat. The problem is though, behind this flap here are a set of inputs as well. And these are input 4. So I'm going to have wires sticking out of it no matter what, which I'm trying to avoid. I didn't have a choice with the last TV because the only AV jacks that it had were, well, in the front. So. But there's the set of inputs there. So input 1, 2, and 3. There's the output. It does require power, but it supports all of these, so that's really neat. Looks like it shares the audio here with AV, so that's actually really good since I do have that limitation in the back of the television. So yeah, I wonder what I want to do about that, though. I don't like the fact that there's the front cables there. Do I only have 3 systems hooked up at a time? I don't like that idea. I mean, they're going to have to share inputs anyways, and I'm probably not going to want to have more than one console at a time anyway, and what would be the odds of me doing that? So sharing inputs is fine. Maybe I'll figure something out, I'm sure. I'm going to get the rest of this put back together, get some of these cables tied up and organized and cleaned up. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. I don't know if it's visible on here, and I'm going to draw up a proper diagram on a computer so it looks neater, but since technically I have 12 inputs, if you count, each one as individual ones, even though they're all grouped together, I can still do everything without needing to use the front jacks at all. And the front jacks I can use as quick hookups or whatever. So on AV1, SNES using component video, although I don't have those cables yet, they'll be in soon. And the Famicom will be using AV. Input 2 will use the Genesis, which again, I don't have component cables for those and they're out of stock everywhere. So I don't have a choice but to use composite. I don't have S-Video cables for them, although I could probably find some. And then the PS2 will use component, AV3 will be by itself using, for the Xbox, it'll just be using component video, and I'll still have the other inputs available. And like I said, AV4 we'll just use for quick hookup. So I still have it on top, have all the cables running on the back, hidden, and yeah, I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna go with. Yeah, this will actually work out perfectly. So went ahead and hooked up the component video cable, including the audio, to the output over here, and then just the composite cable, the video cable from the AV cables that I had. Nice and thick, shielded. It's RG59, I believe. Definitely coaxial. Either way, this should be really good, keeping some of the interference out and everything. And if everything works the way I think it does, all the audio should be shared anyway, so shouldn't have any issues. Go ahead, route it in the back, and get the rest of everything hooked up. It's gonna be a mess of cables back there, and I hate cable management, but I don't want them all out and visible and everything, so. Well, not intended to be, these grooves, or whatever you want to call them, are good to kind of hold the cables in place to keep the selector switch from flopping around too much, especially this one here. It's almost a perfect fit. The component cables are a little bit too thick to fit in there, but should be enough. And worst case scenario is I can try to feed a zip tie through and secure it that way. So looks like there's also these screw holes that screws don't go into. I could probably do something with that for cable management, but for now I think this will work out perfectly. Alright, so I think I'm done. At least it's going to be as good as I can get it. Everything should be mostly out of the way and hopefully not, you know, going to be caught on anything or causing any kind of a mess or whatever. However, I made a miscalculation. I'll show you what I mean. So when I said earlier that, oh, we can share the inputs because I only need one set of AV for some consoles and component for others, they're all using the same audio inputs, which obviously I'm not going to be able to plug in both the Super Nintendo on component and the Famicom at the same time. So, in fact, I'm recording this a few days later because I had to go and get some more stuff ordered from Amazon and order these little Y splitters. When I picked these specifically just because they're color coded, so it'll be easier to determine, you know, left channel, right channel, all that stuff. Still don't have these Super Nintendo component video cables in yet. They should be in this week. But I want to get everything hooked up anyways so I can test it, make sure it works. I'm not going to have, obviously, the Super NES and the Famicom hooked up at the same time. But if one works, the other one should work too. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect these and finish this up, hopefully give it a test and go from there. All right, it's definitely not pretty, and I'm not going to bother kind of securing these for now because I am going to get those component cables in soon, and I'm going to have to finagle with all of it anyway. But as long as it's out of the way and I don't really see it too much, it should be fine. Another thing I did is I velcroed this to the top so it doesn't fall, and I also made this basic spreadsheet which shows what the inputs currently do, and I can always modify it later. All right, now I got to go ahead and plug this back in, we'll test it, and then I'll slide it back into its corner and finish this video up. Alright, let's see if we've got everything working or not. The switch itself is already on, powered on, it's just always on, or if it's not plugged in, it's off, so there's no actual power button. And by default, it seems to have gone to input 1, which should be the SNES and the Famicom. Again, I only got one of those hooked up, so we're only going to be able to test one, but we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, now again, because the SNES is hooked up only through composite for now, we're going to leave it in AV. And nothing, but it's got a picture because you saw the flash. Wonder if I need to clean the cartridge or something happened to the SNES. That would suck. So something's up with the SNES. I'm going to have to figure out what it is, but I've got a couple of spares, so I swapped it out. And it seems to be working. Obviously, I'm going to have to adjust the colors and the brightness and all that fun stuff and tweak it and everything, but I think everything's fine. Audio's working and everything, so let's go ahead and we'll test the Genesis now because I've got the Sega CD hooked up to it. I don't really have to worry about putting a game or anything in there, so it should just show a picture. So let's see, we'll switch to input 2. And there we go. A little bit of artifacting down there. I wonder if that's the Sega or if I need to adjust something inside the television. But it seems to be fine. Now let me turn on the PS2 because that should be sharing the same input. And we'll switch that to component. There we go. And there's audio. All right, let me go ahead and we'll test the Xbox. All right, we'll switch to input 3. Nothing. Hit the power button on the Xbox and it just immediately shuts off. Apparently I've got to do some work on that too. Let me just double check the cables though. All right, not sure what happened, but it's working now, so cool. I think I'm all set. I'm going to go ahead and slide this back into the corner and wrap this video up. Actually, before I do that, obviously I'm going to have some empty spaces on the shelves here, since I've got the Xbox in the rack here, and as well as the PS2. So the PS2, I can always put the PS1 in there and the Slim, have them there on display. And as far as the Xbox goes, I'm not sure what to put in there, but that's neat. I have a little bit extra room now because of this project. And yeah, everything still fits. The depth of the television is a little bit deeper than the Funai was, but not by much. Everything else seems to be fine, so I'm glad with this setup. Glad that I finally have a television with the component video inputs on it, and that I can actually use the consoles to support it to their fullest. So, like I said, like several dozen times here, still waiting for the SNES component video cables to come in. Should get them this week, and maybe I'll do a quick short or TikTok or something showing what it looks like with component versus, you know, standard AV. So of course, just as I'm starting to edit the video, guess what came in the mail? So I don't know if I'm going to do this as a separate video or if I'm just going to interject this one into the last one. We'll see. Depends on how lazy I am. Yeah, I mean, they've got, you know, some options and everything here. And sorry it's a little dark in here. I don't have all the lighting on because, well, I wasn't going to be able to use it for testing anyway because it would just interfere with the picture, so. And there's some tips and tricks. And then, of course, the most important thing, the cables themselves. So, yeah, they're basically what this does is it grabs the RGB signal out of the Super Nintendo and converts it to component video. And yeah, so not much to it. I'm pretty sure it's just plug and play. So what I'll do is I'm going to first fire up the Super Nintendo. We'll try a game. I'll try to get as close of a shot as I can with the camera so we can see what it looks like. Then we'll hook up the component video cable, switch it over, and see what difference there is. Also, the SNES Junior does not do native RGB out, or the North American model does not. You have to have it modded for sure. So I swapped it out for my Smoke Shell SNES. Power's on, but there's no picture. I'm not sure what's up with it. I'm going to have to probably do some work on it. I'm hoping it's not a PPU because that would suck. Although I do have a spare board that I can take spare parts from, or even just do a board swap, so we'll see. So instead I went and dragged a spare Super Nintendo out that's been paired and everything, although the top half of the shell is yellowed and it's starting to yellow back again. But it works, so I don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll, like I said, we'll do a quick test with composite video, and then we'll do another test with the component video cables, just so we can see the difference in picture quality. And it is a CRT, and it's, even though it's a Samsung, it's not a great Samsung CRT. There's some quirks that I've been learning about it over the past few days and everything, but it's still better than what I had before, so. So for testing stuff like this, a lot of people always use Super Mario World. I'm going to use Super Mario All-Stars instead, even though this has got both games on it. I'm going to do Super Mario All-Stars, give it a little bit of love. So I'm going to set to AV, so that's the composite input. I'm going to go ahead and we'll fire everything up. Now this is totally not going to be a scientific test or anything, but, you know, here you go. This is the composite video. Looks a little more washed out on my screen than it does on the actual television, so I'm not sure how it's going to show up post-editing or even pre-editing or anything, but that's what it looks like there with composite. And we'll zoom in. Actually, let me see if I can zoom in now. I guess we'll zoom in on that block there. And let's zoom back out. And then we switch it over to component. All right, let's switch the source. And I don't have the audio hooked up so you don't hear that, but yeah, it looks a little sharper. Colors look a little bit more vibrant, even on the camera and everything, so let's zoom back in. And now, again, I'll have to look at it post-editing, but It does look like it's a little sharper. Again, this television isn't exactly the best. When you get into the service menu, you can adjust basically everything for the vertical size and height and everything. For horizontal, the only option you have is shifting it left or right. There's no way to adjust the horizontal size or anything like that. I guess there's a capacitor mod you can do that I'll have to look into and see that's supposed to improve it. But for now, again, I'm okay with it. I think that everything looks fine. So let's go ahead and yeah. So I think it's better overall. Again, some people aren't gonna be able to tell the difference. I seem to be able to. Like I said, a little bit. It's not gonna be perfect. I'm sure if I had a nice Sony CRT or one of these 32-inch or 36-inch JVCs that a lot of people seem to talk about online, maybe it'd be a little bit different, especially if I had like a PVM or a BVM, but those are going to be out of my price range unless I manage to just find one for free or something. So yeah, I'm happy overall. At least now I know I'll get the quote-unquote best possible picture out of it, although Voltard is going to be releasing a mod that's supposed to enhance the edges even better, because I guess the 2-chip SNESs, which is what I'm running right now, don't have as good of a picture quality as the 1-chip, but he's found a way to get it to look as good, if not even better. So maybe I'll revisit that once it's out. And I believe it's also got a RGB mod attending with it, so it should improve that as well. So yeah, so cable seems to work fine, successful, yay. Now I gotta redo all the cabling that I did the other day. And yeah, so you guys have an experience with these HD Retrovision component cables for your Super Nintendo, leave some comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are and everything. Are there alternate versions of this cable available? Did someone else make their own cable for this? Let me know. Otherwise, thanks all. I'll catch you later.